The little girl was meeting her grandfather for the first time,
Hoi Großvater.
Das ist Heidi, eures Großkind.
but he clearly wanted nothing to do with her. After being turned away, her aunt heartlessly abandoned her there. Heidi had no choice but to come back.
Stimmt! Nimm's sie mit! Los, gang weiter!
Aber sie will mich doch auch nicht.
Her grandfather showed no sympathy, went inside, and locked the door behind him.
Großvater?
People in the village all said he was a strange old man, but Heidi had lost both her parents as a child. Where else could she possibly go? She opened an unlocked goat pen nearby and spent a miserable night there. Early the next morning, grandfather came to milk the goats.
Guten Morgen, Großvater.
He didn't say a word to her, but still handed her a spoonful of fresh goat's milk. Heidi happily drank it all in one gulp, but grandfather said he'd be sending her away soon. They went to the church, where the pastor carefully examined Heidi and found she was healthy, easy enough to raise. But grandfather insisted he wouldn't take her in. The pastor said he wouldn't be able to find a foster family for another 3 days. Otherwise, she'd have to be sent to an orphanage. So for those 3 days, Heidi had to stay with grandfather. As soon as they got back, Heidi stood timidly at the door and asked, did she still have to sleep in the goat pen? Grandfather just said, suit yourself. Heidi happily stepped inside, but there was only one chair and one bed, and nowhere that looked like a place for her. She climbed up into the loft and found a pile of hay. Heidi rolled around in it excitedly. It looked like she loved it there. She wanted to stay with grandfather, said she didn't want to go to the orphanage. Grandfather froze for a second, said nothing, and lowered his head to keep eating. The next morning, Peter from the village came up the mountain to herd goats. Heidi excitedly wanted to follow him. Grandfather told her to finish her milk first. She washed her face in crystal clear spring water, slung lunch over her shoulder, and ran after them. The Alps were drenched in sunlight. Heidi ran wild and free. She loved everything about this place. They rolled in the grass, imitated marmots calling. While resting, Peter snuck a bite of cheese and sausage when Heidi wasn't looking. When Heidi caught him, Peter claimed he had no idea what happened. Maybe the goats ate it. Heidi didn't believe him, but didn't press it. Then 2 goats started fighting. Peter raised his whip and struck them. Heidi rushed over to stop him and promised she'd share half her lunch every day, as long as he stopped whipping the goats. Peter gladly agreed, but made her promise not to tell grandfather, because people in the village said grandfather had killed someone before. Back home, Heidi hid off to the side while eating and said she'd go sleep in the goat pen. Grandfather knew Peter must have been poisoning her mind and told Heidi to trust her own judgment.
Du musst selber entscheiden, ob du deinen eigenen Augen und Ohren traust oder im Quest von den Leuten.
Heidi froze. After spending all this time together, she knew grandfather had been good to her. She ran over and hugged him, and the old man with the rough edges suddenly didn't know what to do. Time flew by. Heidi told Peter she'd be sent to the pastor tomorrow. Peter looked downcast, but acted tough and said he'd only miss her lunches. When Heidi got home, she found a brand new chair at the table. She carefully asked grandfather, was it for her?
Wir werden zus.
Aber du bringst mich doch mal weg.
Morgen gehst du wieder auf die Alp.
Und dann am nächsten Tag auch wieder.
Ah ja.
Heidi threw her arms around him, and this time, grandfather hugged her back tightly. Seasons passed. The Alps turned gold. On the last day of late autumn, Peter sadly told Heidi he had to go to school and wouldn't return until spring. Heidi wanted to go too, but grandfather refused. He was only worried. Coming down the mountain in winter would be dangerous. Then heavy snow covered the peaks. Heidi stared out the window in silence. Grandfather saw her loneliness, pulled out an old rusty sled from storage, and took her racing down the snowy mountain. Her nose turned red from the cold, but those were her happiest moments. If time could stand still, Heidi would have stayed in that moment forever. They visited Peter's house. While waiting for Peter after school, Heidi discovered his grandmother was blind and had almost no teeth left. She couldn't even chew bread anymore. Heidi fell silent. That night, grandfather came to take her home, and she held him tightly.
Gell? Mir geht's gut, Großvater.
Before she knew it, winter had passed. Then Heidi's aunt came back to the mountain. She claimed she'd found a good family for Heidi, but really, she meant to sell her off as a rich girl's companion. Grandfather had grown attached to Heidi and shouted for her aunt to get out, but the aunt didn't give up. She found Heidi while she was herding goats, lied that grandfather didn't want her anymore, and tricked her into leaving. When Peter returned alone, grandfather knew something was wrong. He ran down the mountain searching for Heidi, but the aunt had already left town in a waiting carriage. By the time he arrived, they were gone. The townspeople mocked him, with tears in his eyes. Grandfather silently returned up the mountain. Heidi was taken to a grand mansion. Her aunt collected payment from the housekeeper, then rushed off. Turns out, the wealthy family wanted a companion for their daughter Clara, and her aunt had sold Heidi to them. Thankfully, Clara was kind, always wearing a warm smile that helped Heidi relax in this unfamiliar place. Used to running wild in the mountains, Heidi accidentally shattered an expensive vase on her first day. When the strict housekeeper demanded answers, Clara took the blame herself. Heidi knew nothing about noble manners and embarrassed herself at the dinner table. She didn't know how to use silverware or what counted as proper etiquette. The stern housekeeper lectured her on the rules of high society, but Heidi quickly fell asleep listening. In her dreams, she always returned to the Alps she longed for, but every time she woke, it was only that grand but unfamiliar ceiling above her. As Clara's study companion, Heidi was asked to read aloud in lessons, but she couldn't read a word, not even the alphabet. The teacher was furious, but Clara always smiled and helped her out, so the teacher had no choice but to start from the beginning. One day, Clara had Heidi wheel her into a large empty room. Portraits of her and her mother hung on the walls. Back then, Clara could still stand, but after her mother died, she became deeply traumatized and never walked again. Heidi didn't know how to comfort her, so she simply laid a small hand on Clara's arm. Missing grandfather terribly, Heidi begged the housekeeper to open the window. She thought she might see the mountain where he lived, but there were only towering buildings, nothing else. The housekeeper told her if she wanted to see mountains, she'd have to climb the town's highest bell tower. So Heidi snuck out, pushing Clara in her chair. Clara told Heidi to go up alone. She'd wait below, but after climbing all the way up, Heidi couldn't see a single mountain. She didn't realize grandfather was impossibly far away. They returned home, where the housekeeper exploded in fury, but before she could scold them much, she started sneezing nonstop. Clara had secretly bought 3 kittens. The housekeeper was allergic to cats and panicked onto a stool. Chaos erupted. As punishment, Heidi was made to stand facing the wall and was forbidden to eat. That was when she decided to run home. She packed her things, put on the clothes she'd arrived in, hugged Clara goodbye, and turned to leave, but she didn't know she'd been sold there. The housekeeper was never going to let her go. As they struggled, a pile of bread fell from Heidi's bag. Soft rolls she'd saved for Peter's grandmother, because only that bread was soft enough for her to eat. Heidi, wanting to leave, devastated Clara. Crying, she ran to her room, thinking she must have treated Heidi badly.
Nein, das ist es doch.
She grabbed Heidi's hand.
Ich hab doch nur dich, Heidi. Wir können es auch zusammen schön haben, nicht?
But Heidi didn't respond. That day, Clara's father and grandmother returned home. The reunion made Clara overjoyed. Her grandmother adored Heidi too, but the housekeeper said Heidi wasn't right in the head, strange-tempered, and too slow to learn even the alphabet, dragging Clara's studies down. Grandmother didn't scold Heidi at all. Instead, she told her stories and taught her to read. Heidi loved those stories because they reminded her of grandfather. One late night, a servant got up to secretly drink and heard movement at the front door. The door stood eerily open, but no one was there. Nothing in the mansion was missing. Everyone thought the house was haunted. It alarmed Clara's father. The next night, he and a doctor friend waited in the hall. Hearing a noise, they followed with a gun drawn, only to find Heidi sleepwalking. They followed her back to her room and found her body ice cold. Trying to get her another blanket, they opened the closet and a pile of bread tumbled out. They had no idea Heidi had been saving it for Peter's grandmother. When Heidi woke, the doctor spoke with her. It turned out she missed grandfather so much. She sleepwalked to the front door every night. It was already affecting her mind. The doctor said she needed to go home, or it could get worse. Clara's father stared at his wife's portrait for a long time in silence. At last, he decided to send Heidi back to grandfather, even though it would hurt Clara.
Dass sie hier bleibt!
Clara,
Ich bin auch krank und ganz alleine!
du vergisst dich. Ich möchte, dass du dich sofort beruhigst.
Heidi stood there stunned.
Geh nur! Geh nicht zu den Ölen an Peter! Geht doch alle!
Before leaving, she came to see Clara, but Clara locked herself in her room. Heidi left behind a little eagle grandfather had carved, asking Clara's father to give it to her. Then she returned to the village with the housekeeper. She stopped by Peter's home, left a whole box of soft rolls for his grandmother, and brought Peter his favorite sausage. Then she ran all the way up the mountain. At last, she saw the grandfather she'd missed every day. Heidi returned to her carefree life herding goats. They hid in a tent under the trees when it rained, basked in the sun on open meadows, and ate hard crusty bread with joy. This was the life she wanted, so Heidi could attend school in winter. Grandfather moved down into the village. Days passed. Heidi missed Clara more and more. She wrote everything down and mailed letters to her. And on the other end, Clara was drowning in guilt, wishing she had at least said goodbye. Her grandmother noticed it all and decided to take Clara to see Heidi. While herding goats in the mountains, Heidi spotted Clara in the distance. She grabbed Peter's hand and ran toward her in excitement, throwing her arms around her. Seeing how happy they were, grandmother decided Clara should stay for a few days. They slept together in the hayloft. Heidi tossed aside Clara's fancy coat and taught her mountain table manners. The refined young lady even copied Heidi, licking the bowl clean and wiping her mouth with her hand. But Peter wasn't thrilled Clara was there. Seeing the girls inseparable, he asked Heidi if she still wanted to herd goats.
Nein?
Ach, warum denn? Lass uns doch mitgehen.
Wie soll das denn gehen? Du kannst ja nicht einmal laufen. Peter!
Though they had a little tension, Heidi and Clara quickly forgot about him. Peter grew jealous. When no one was looking, he pushed Clara's wheelchair down the mountain. When the chair couldn't be found, Grandfather knew Peter was behind it. With no other choice, he carried Clara up the mountain himself. Looking out at the endless peaks, Clara forgot every worry, lost in scenery like a painting. Then a butterfly landed on her foot. She reached for it, but it suddenly flew away, and Heidi stared in shock. Clara had stood up. She ran over to support her. Peter, hiding nearby, rushed out to help too, with her friends beside her. Clara practiced walking step by step. Not long after, her father came to take her home. He complained to his mother for bringing Clara somewhere so dangerous, then turned and saw his daughter walking toward him.
Du läufst. Verzeih mir bitte.
Grandmother gave Heidi a storybook, but when Heidi opened it, every page was blank. Grandmother handed her a pen and told her to write her own stories. Heidi smiled, then the smile faded. Grandmother asked what was wrong. Heidi said in school, they were once asked about their dreams. She said she wanted to write stories, and the other children laughed at her. After hearing that, Grandmother gently told her. They laughed because they had seen too little, but Heidi had seen a much bigger world.
Wenn dir etwas Freude macht im Leben, dann musst du es einfach tun. Egal, was die Leute reden.
After saying goodbye to Clara, Heidi went back to living free as ever. But now she had a new love. She began writing down all the beautiful things she saw. And maybe that was the meaning of life.